Welcome to the PI Podcast, political inquiries for the palaging inis, or for our foreign listeners, perpetually irate. I'm your host, Matt, and with me is Paul Saigai, research dude, and mastermind on the siege on the White House of Trump supporters, Borge.
Ako, ako yung may dala ng walis tambon, din nyo lang alam.
Yun nga, si Borge yun, mga PI. Siya pala yun, si Borge. There's a Filipino there that let people in, yeah.
PI nyo, PI nating lahat, Borge here at your service.
Yes. So this is first episode of 2021.
Woo!
It's a new year. We have a new song that's Scheming and Dreaming by my brother, JV Ordonis. What do you think about the new song, by the way, Borge?
It is so... It's nice. It's nice vibe, nice groove.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool yet challenging.
Yes, we're rebranding a bit. We have our new, political inquiries for the palaging inis. Yun. that's our tagline, and of course you're working on new layouts. Your artistic skills are improving. Good job.
Oh, thank God.
All right. So how's this new year treating you so far, Borge?
Well, it's okay. It's okay so far, but then again, I think the world is moving faster towards certain destruction. No, just kidding. certain things that I think 2021 is about things that we think might happen, but we're hoping would not happen, but eventually happens.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, because we've gotten too used to it in 2020, right? Yeah. And here we are doing a podcast, playing a fiddle while the word burns. All right. So for me, as I usually do on holidays, I've been watching a few of the Metro Manila Film Festival entries, local films. It's usually the
nice.
the best we have to offer. And there's not a lot. I've only watched the one that won Best Picture. Usually there's like mini Oscars. There's Best Actor, Best thing, and one movie that dominated the most of the categories, particularly Best Picture, is Fangirl. And have you ever been a fan, or do you know anything about fangirls? You probably have fangirls.
I never had fangirls. I don't know. I actually don't know. But then again, I know someone who studied fandom. And that's one thing. I have seen that movie's title on my news feed for the past few weeks because of a certain picture that had gone viral.
Ooh.
And but yeah, so what struck you about that movie?
Funny thing is that I think what we've used to talk about in the first Film Institute episode with Janus is that typical commercial films usually sustain a fantasy or something, or a positive or form of escapism in our cinema. But this is actually one of the few, or part of the emerging trend of something that is the complete opposite. So rather than something clean and happy ending, this one is more of like a gritty suspense thriller. It's particularly about a girl saturated in the rom-com fantasy. Now she eventually stalks and follows her idol, played by Paulo Avellino, and he is eventually you'll learn he is not what he seems to be in movies. In fact, they sees the real actor for what he really is, and I won't spoil it away, but it is very gritty, and it is very, actually, it's something you rarely see in Philippine films, and that idea is kind of interesting, and I think a lot of things that right now that like 2020 has been in a way a year of disappointment and unfulfilled fantasy. It's funny. You see that connection between that theme and 2020.
Yeah. Basically, 2020 is just a year full of broken plans and broken everything. Well, but what else? Are there any other movies that dabbled on such things?
Well, the funny thing is that there's this other movie from a different film festival, the Sinag Maynila, and one thing that won Audience Choice, I think, was He Who Is Without Sin. And this is actually now between a student and a reporter who he he idolizes. So it's a similar theme to Fangirl. And the thing, what if you could connect them? And the thing, and it's similar. And from the trailer, he is not who he seems to be, and so it deals with that kind of fantasy. And the common theme is what we're talking about here is kind of like a hero worship. And around this, since our last episode, actually, two particular heroes celebrated their their death days, right? You have Andres Bonifacio Day, November 30, and you have Rizal's death day, that's December 30. You notice anything in social media during those days, Borge?
Well, the thing is, I think the trend would be demystifying heroes. I think that had been a trend for the past few years, I think. So trying to demystify heroes, or as Ambeto Campos' book would say, Rizal without the overcoat. So I think discussions right now would be to take this heroes per se as human. That's one thing. So
Right.
to humanize them. But then again, what is a hero? And I think we should start with that one.
Well, yeah, but the fun, if you remember, I think you're aware of this, is that Raptor put out this, as they usually do, like, what would Rizal or what would Bonifacio say if you're looking at the Philippines? And I think one of my contributions to that post is, I can't believe I'm played by Robin Padilla. I should have been played by a better actor. So yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, so it's like almost like imagine if they were alive today, but they're dead, I mean, it doesn't matter what they have to think about, what people think today, they died for our sins. I'm like, does it really matter, and what does that reveal about our relationship with our heroes?
No, the thing is, it's basically the relationship of people with heroes in general. It's just when we ask ourselves, what would this hero do? What would this hero
Like,
say?
what did Jesus do?
What would Jesus do? It doesn't really matter how much we know about that hero. It's more of the quality of what we know. It's more of the stories that we have about that hero. It's more of the values that we got from that hero, regardless of whether that hero actually embodied those values in the first place. So yeah.
I mean, normally these two figures, and this could be another video entirely, but these two figures have been rivals for the title of national hero. For those of like a lot of like more nationalist people say that Rizal was a American imposition. It was imposed by American law. This is your hero. Because he wasn't as quote unquote violent and revolutionary, and the true patriots should be more for other like Bonifacio, who was more anti-foreigner. He was a bit more nationalist. He wrote in Tagalog, not in Spanish, and right now I think the fact that these people who are pro Rizal and pro Bonifacio have united. But at the same time, neither of their idols are perfect. Like when Rizal is a imposition, Bonifacio is more or less a loser. Like he lost several elections within his own group and government, and that he was always consistently portrayed as a hothead, which, while his passion gathered people towards him, it also alienated him from his elite competitors in the Katipunan. So it's kind of interesting, like overly aware of their flaws. And what does that like? What does that say to you?
Awareness of their flaws. No, the thing is, well, we need to clarify. Well, again, heroes. We will tackle heroes tonight more as a construct. We would not try to deal with the facts regarding heroes. We would try to look at heroes and heroism as an imagination, as part of our imagination. And something to illustrate about would be that one. The emphasis on Bonifacio being the loser is by fact, to an extent, he is, but there are certain reasons why he was that are not of his own making. So basically, as far as Dr. Salazar's research is concerned, Bonifacio bore the brunt of the entire Spanish force because he was thought to be the leader of it. So the Spanish focused their forces on his front, allowing Aguinaldo to move a bit more loosely, having fewer encounters in comparison to Bonifacio, who was forced to
from behind
larger numbers to deal with larger numbers. And Bonifacio almost captured Manila. So that's another fact. Bonifacio almost captured Manila. But I think the imagination that we formed around Bonifacio reflects our penchant to praise underdogs. So Bonifacio became our first underdog.
Right.
So that's one thing. And something that passed on to the likes of Manny Pacquiao, who was portrayed as an underdog. So yeah, by fact, Bonifacio may have lost, but there are reasons beyond his control. And he did his best, and he almost captured Manila. But we placed upon him our own tendency to praise the underdog.
Right. No, and another contrast he has to Rizal is that he is self-educated as compared to Rizal, who was
Yeah.
overeducated, who was a doctor, a practicing doctor, and who is a functioning polyglot. In a way, some people identify with Bonifacio a bit more precisely because of that quality. He's a bit mas masang Filipino. He's of the masses. He's a
Great
symbol of the
plebeian.
masses. Yeah. But before we get lost in this debate, which we can,
Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing we have to set in this episode is besides these particular heroes, we have to ask ourselves, like, why do we worship heroes?
Yeah.
Episode 8. Why do Filipinos worship heroes? And let's start, of course, by asking ourselves, what is a hero and what it is to our society? So perhaps we might want to start with the basic definition. What is a hero?
What is a hero? Again, we can look at it from the etymological perspective. Okay, so a hero is someone with a superhuman strength. Again, this is a Western term. It's a Greek term, heros,
Right.
heroes. So it refers to a man with superhuman strength, physical courage. Then it evolved into something like a demigod, an illustrious person. Again, we will link. We'll send the links here with our upload. But yeah, hero definition of a hero would be they're judged based on their capabilities first and foremost. So their courage, again, martial spirit. I think the notion of a hero first and foremost became the material for martial spirit, meaning a warlike capacity.
Right.
So yeah, etymologically that is that. As a concept, however, as far as the notion of hero is concerned, it is also the material from which citizenship got its substance. The very first citizens that emerged in Athens, they got their models from mythical heroes like Achilles. So
who was a soldier,
yeah,
first and foremost. Yeah,
and
the greatest warriors.
Yeah, and Odysseus for his wisdom and craftiness. So yeah, so
or Heracles, for its strength.
Yeah, so they got the notion of citizenship itself. The notion of citizen was founded on this semi-mythical notion of a hero. So that's one thing that we need to take into account. But another thing is hero is different from our own term, which is Bayani. So Bayani, on the other hand, to an extent, is also about excellence and so on and so forth. But something that Bayani is, that hero is not, is that Bayani, as far as Dr. Zu Salazar is concerned, his research, it refers to someone who serves the bayan, the community, without expecting anything in return. So Bayani is immediately a social role, like a hero.
So it's the bayan that makes the bayani. Wala ang bayani pag walang bayan, di ba?
Yeah, to an extent.
So, you can't exactly call yourself bayani. You have the bayan or the nation has to call you and bestow on you the idea of bayani.
Yeah.
Or
because you're serving the purpose of that. You're serving the purpose of that nation or that bayan.
Yeah.
But hero, on the other hand, the hero can also be appropriated as a social term, but it takes a bit, takes another step, takes an extra step. It's not automatic. A hero can be a loner, can be a lone wolf, but people can still consider that person a hero without being attached to a society.
So he can be a hero, but not a bayani.
Yeah, that's one thing.
So that's fascinating because it highlights the public role. So the public has to recognize you as such. Depending on your services to that public.
Yeah.
Which is odd because when you look at the idea of like you said, hero, there's the idea of hero includes several meanings. You can have like a hero that is imposed by society, like with the bayani. You can also have a personal hero or an idol or lodi. You can also have, someone who is simply a protagonist or gets all the attention. Like you say, don't be a hero. That could also mean like don't sacrifice yourself, don't be stupid. Oh, pabida. There you go. So you can be a bayani, but you can be a bida. Ano ba yung bida? Or like you try to be a hero. Yeah. A protagonist.
Yeah.
So it's based on the whole story. Attention is on the bida or the protagonist, but he need not be perfect or virtuous or even liked by the people. He's just simply the focus of the story, the bida. But come to think about it, you can say that a lot of figures of like current figures right now, you can say that they're pidas when they're
Mm.
trying to be bayani. You know, papabida sila. Kala nila bayani sila, yung pala pabida lang sila.
Yeah,
Tagalog.
that's our
Yeah.
that's our way. The thing is, Bayani is off the society, yet to an extent,
Mm-hmm.
it is something distinct from society itself because it's the
Mm-hmm.
embodiment of excellence to an extent. But then
Right.
again, our notion of Bayani is something deeply integrated in our society already. So
Mm-hmm.
it's either you're no one, you're an ordinary person, or Bayani ka, which means you have
Mm-hmm.
contributed something to society. So if we would interpret that in a very general sense, then
Right.
bayani is having ambag. Pag nakaambag ka
Oh, yeah.
nang hindi humihingi ng kapalit without asking for anything in return. So
Mm-hmm.
which is to an extent our response to a westernized individualistic
Mm-hmm.
contractarian and what we call buyer seller relation. So that's how we
Mm-hmm.
try to counter it. But
Right.
regarding that one, I think there is still this tension between bayani and society. We
Right.
still trying to appropriate. We're trying to be bayani, but we end up something else. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something bad
Right.
about it? It depends. That reflects the nature of society itself.
Mm-hmm.
For the West, how they appropriated the notion of hero into a polity would be through citizenship.
Mm-hmm. Right. All
That's
right.
one thing.
Uh, okay. So the thing is, with regards to your idea of the bayani, if I'm right to say that basically citizens are called to be heroes or lahat ng mamamayan ay dapat maging bayani
Yeah,
o kailangan, what's the term?
magpakabayani.
Magpakabayani ang mga
Mm.
mamamayan. You know, so
Mm.
yeah, that's the Tagalog term.
Yeah.
So all citizens must strive to be heroes.
Mm.
Now, the thing is, okay, let's move on from that for a while, and let's consider like what we consider heroes or bayani today. And if I can start, mostly these are people that appear in our currencies, in our coins.
They're
You know,
dead.
of course, there is that, yeah, and they're dead. And I think, of course, there is this. It's in the law. That's who like who is considered hero. They even have like a national heroes committee under like the law. I'm trying to get the law here. I can put it in the.
Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes. And basically, they have a criteria. Basically, according to this one, it's heroes are those who are conscious of the nation and thereafter aspire and struggle for the nation's freedom. Number two, heroes are those who define and contribute to the system of life, like we just said, contribute, nag-ambag. And three, those who again contribute to the quality of life and destiny of the nation. So it's still linked to the nation. And again, additional criteria. There's another one according to the technical committee. A hero is part of a people's expression.
Becomes
But the process
democratic.
of yes, a hero thinks of the future, especially the future generations. Now, how can we tell that? I don't know. And the third is the choice of a hero involves not only the recounting of an episode of events in history, but also the entire process that made this particular person a hero. So yeah. Any thoughts on these criteria?
Okay, the thing is, for the additional criteria for heroes, I see this criteria more as something that we should practice in citizenship.
You're right.
That's one thing. But then again, I think we'll try to explore that one later on why most of our bayanis are dead.
Right.
Something like that. But I think I have a problem with the third one. The choice of a hero involves not only the recounting of an episode or events in history, but of the entire process that made this particular person a hero. And this prevents the application of the title of Bayani to someone who is alive. And I think this criteria is stopping us from applying it to living people. Because that's one thing. If you remove this criteria, then the title of hero becomes something a bit more accessible to everyone.
Right.
It becomes accessible, but it is something that you can also remove, which more or less increases its value. It doesn't hurt the community if they renounce someone they dubbed as a hero.
Right. I mean, basically, if you go through popular culture, they're afraid that you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So, like Harvey Dent in the movie Dark Knight, spoilers, eventually started as a hero, but in the end, he becomes Two-Face. And we're afraid of doing that because you're investing this public honor only for people to fail. Eventually, they fail to have that honor. Maybe it's to the pressure of that title. And it's actually, for instance, we even personally, like I'm personally hesitant to call a living person a hero,
Mm.
because precisely because they always let you down. And there's also this common adage, never meet your heroes, otherwise because they'll only disappoint you, you know. I think that's what happens in the movies and people I think identified with these movies, not only because
Mm.
maybe perhaps these are well done, they're great movies, but these two movies in particular, Fangirl and He Who Is Without Sin,
Mm.
actually I think tap into something that is going on a lot, and that is our living heroes or idols are some letting us down, even
Mm.
perhaps even people who worship certain politicians, not
Mm.
going to say who, might felt let down and ergo identified with in the movie.
Are
What
we
do you
afraid of
think about you think?
are we afraid of heroes? Are we afraid of heroes? That's why
Hmm.
we keep them dead.
Well,
Is
it's
that
more like no, we're not afraid of heroes per se. We're afraid of being let down after being called, heroes. It's a different kind of heartbreak when your hero disappoints you. You know, uh, only for instance, you have this great actor all of a sudden, and then when you meet them, they're just like a drunkard. So something like that. What
that's
do you
one
think?
thing. I do not share such a
Mm-hmm.
fear. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not hesitant. I mean, my parents are my personal heroes.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to my parents. I
Okay.
love you, but they're my
Hello,
personal
Mr. and Mrs.
heroes.
Borja.
But they have their
Right.
they have their flaws. I know them as humans, yet
Mm-hmm.
they're still my hero. I don't get this fear.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, I do understand why. I do understand why, but I can't share it. I can't share this fear of having
Mm-hmm.
a living hero. So what
Right.
if the thing is probably because I don't
Mm-hmm.
probably because I don't have that fear that I am not
Mm-hmm.
reluctant. I'm more than
Uh-huh.
willing. I'm more than willing to give someone that title of hero and watch and keep an eye on that
Mm-hmm.
person. And if that person
Mm-hmm.
fails in any of the criteria, then I would happily
Right.
remove that title and give it to someone else. Is there something wrong with
Mm-hmm.
that? Is there something wrong
Mm-hmm.
with a title of a hero being flexible?
Mm. Problem is, it's not just a personal title. We're talking about a title given bestowed by a polity or a
Mm,
bayan. So how
mm,
do we who do we call heroes today? Like what you said, it's mostly dead historical figures.
mm.
Historical is a word for dead. Their history. Uh, have there been expressions of living modern day heroes? Well, like the Arroyo administration called OFWs, overseas Filipino workers,
Mm,
as the new heroes.
mm.
Frontliners are considered heroes, but the thing is, and when people said this, like, no, they're just doing their jobs. Despite given granted it's a pandemic, they're just doing their jobs. Hence, that's
That's
one of the rubs there. Can someone who is simply doing their job, even in crisis, be considered a hero when in fact it should be expected
I
for
think
some
that
people?
that is the tension. I think that is the great tension between Bayani itself as a concept and the society. Yes,
Right.
Bayani is part of society, but there's still that tension. They want to
Right.
keep that line alive. The thing is, if Bayani as a concept becomes fully integrated into society, it disappears. It
Hmm.
disappears, but it imbues everyone with that spirit of kabayanihan. So that's the benefit that you can
Mm-hmm.
get. That's the
Mm-hmm.
benefit. So it's cost and benefits. The cost is we remove the pedestals, we remove something that we consider as mythical or as
Mm-hmm.
sacred. We
Right.
desanctify things. We
Mm-hmm.
desanctify. That's the cost. But the
Mm-hmm.
benefit is we open it to more people.
Mm-hmm.
We give that spirit to more people. We democratize it to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the tension.
Right. And I'm curious. I mean, do you think these people like modern heroes, OFWs, frontliners, can they be considered heroes in your a certain group of people to be considered heroes and not individuals?
It depends again on how we see them as. Okay, even I'm expressing
Doubt
no.
or
Even
hesitation?
yeah. Even I'm looking at the hesitation right now. I'm trying to push at the wall, but it's not. It's yeah. That's the thing. That's the great rub of it. That's the great rub of it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
should we consider someone just doing their job a hero? I think it depends upon if your job is serving the public
Mm-hmm.
directly.
So it's
OFWs,
fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
OFWs, I think,
OFWs.
cannot be called modern day heroes because their job contributes indirectly to society via their families, via their remittances, but it's not directly to society. Except for the taxes, fine. But remittances, is that heroic enough? Well, it's taxation. You're forced to give it anyways. You're forced to pay taxes. It's not heroic
Right.
if you're forced to do something. But for the frontliners, it's also their duty, and it contributes directly to society right now. And they're giving extra effort
Right.
in time of a pandemic. That's one thing. So there's extra risk, but they're still providing it. So
Right.
I
I
think,
suppose that's a big.
yeah,
Mm.
well, go ahead.
I think that's a big compromise. So rather than name individuals as heroes, it's naming a group of people. So at least if all of them, like if not all of them are good, then at least you can point to some people. So some people. So it's like a casting a wide net. But I think the problem with naming individuals as heroes is, we kind of distrust it precisely because it can be converted to political capital, and that it's considered too partisan, similar to like maybe I don't know when Jesse Robredo was still alive, or when even Lenny Robredo. I mean, the fact that they're like the widow syndrome in politics, like when a husband in politics dies, the widow automatically becomes like a heroine. So and they have this status. So do you think that is a factor there, the conversion of heroism into political
capital.
capital? Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'll sorry, File. I need to answer this one with a bigger question, probably to our listeners and also to
Right.
you. Do you think that we need heroes? Kailangan natin ng mga bayani because we lack strong citizenship. Kasi may depekto ang ating pagiging mamamayan. Kaya kailangan natin ng mga bayani.
Well, top of my head, it deserves a greater reflection, but top of my head, I'd say yes. We do need. I wouldn't. It's a smaller word than hero. I'd say role models. We need to see people perform exemplary in certain roles, in order for us to know the idea, like what should we do. In fact, it's not like that's a problem when people say discipline. Kailangan discipline. So it's like pointing outwards, accusing people. People aren't disciplined. The problem is, do they have role models to show them how to be citizens? No. In fact, it's not your job to discipline. Or like that's the point. People see that leadership to say that you should be whipped and disciplined into becoming new citizenship. But why not lead by example? And I think that's one thing. One thing is a hero is an example. And that's what's lacking today. We don't have examples. I mean, that's why we're looking for maybe dictators, so to gain the accountability and to make us good, but not show us what is good. But we have to be made good. That's one thing. It's distrust in ourselves and in other people. You were saying something, yeah?
Regarding that one, okay, first and foremost, I think that regarding ruling by law or by example, again, we have the legalist Confucian debate.
Right.
But regarding lack of examples, I think what we have is not a lack of examples. We have an entire array of idols and heroes, or more idols to be more specific. Again, we can go back to idols versus heroes. These are two different things. I think we have too many examples, but examples that are compromised, examples that have been excused.
Can you give an okay?
For example,
like who?
For example, we may elect a politician despite knowing that politician is corrupt. We excuse that politician and say that this politician did something good for the people anyway. So I think we have an excess of compromised examples, of defective examples.
Right. Well, you mentioned something that's very interesting, and I want to go back to that, which is the distinction between idols and heroes. So you have any idea on that? Like, how do we distinguish that? Because there are a lot of idols. I agree with you, but not for me. A lot of heroes. What are idols?
Yeah, you're right. Idols. I think between idols and heroes, you have role model. So they're both role models. But the thing is, idols, as far as Henri Lefebvre is concerned, idols is based upon the disappearance of the individual. and its reprojection as a role model. So in a society wherein the individual is mere sheep, mere consumer, their individualism is reprojected to them via this idol. Hence, they gravitate
Right.
around it in a search for meaning. A hero, on the other hand, is the individual itself. So,
Okay. So if I'm to make that clear, so
mm,
idols are a process made by certain individuals
loss of
together, but not
individuals.
necessarily loss of loss
Indiv-
of individuals. What does that mean?
uh, when society is bigger than you, you have no personality. You have no. You don't have your own identity. You're basically alienated from yourself. But that is reprojected at you by an idol. So you get your personality, you get your attributes, you get your hobbies, you get your interests by looking at an idol and whatever that idol does.
So it's imitation, like monkey see,
Yes,
monkey do.
yes,
Yeah,
monkey see,
right.
monkey do.
Whereas, right. So, like for example, people idolize, say, K-pop stars. So people start dressing like K-pop
Yeah,
stars,
they
having the
mimic.
haircuts. Yeah. Whereas heroes,
Heroes, on the other hand,
yeah,
highlights an individual's excellence as an individual, not
as an
losing your, not
individual.
mimicking someone, but your own.
Oh, so we don't necessarily mimic, like for instance, maybe Rizal or
Mm.
Bonifacio, but you know, precisely because maybe they cannot be easily mimicked
Mm.
because of their excellence. Yeah. At the
Yeah.
same, but at the same time, also, it's funny. Like I noticed that idols tend to be like they tend to be decided upon circumstantially. Like they just happen to buy a BTS album or like a Rockstar's album, whereas heroes, I think the society has to decide. You know, like hey, these people are good. Let's let's make them our hero. You know, let's give
Yeah.
them a medal. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, interesting. With regards to I think oh wait, that's the distinction with idols and heroes. Let's move on to like how so how should we like moving forward? How can we find more heroes? Is it we're not looking hard enough, or there are really
Mm.
none in sight? Like, what do you think?
That's one thing. I think that would move the question again to. But I think one thing that we can do to move forward is
Hmm.
to start finding living heroes. I mean,
Hmm.
we cannot have living heroes if we don't start finding them and we don't
Hmm.
stop naming them. If we don't start naming
Right.
heroes, then we won't have any. But I think if we are
Hmm.
to move forward, we need to have living ones. We need to have living
Hmm.
ones. We need to
Right.
we need to overcome our fear and
Hmm.
possibly pay the costs and reap the benefits of
Hmm.
having living
Hmm.
heroes and keeping an eye on them.
So declaring a hero is like a gamble, and
It is.
that in a way, yeah, I think that's the danger there is if you declare someone a hero while they're living, it can also gives psychological stress, saying, oh,
Mm,
they have to live up to this title, which somehow they can, but at the same time,
mm.
when they don't, it gives them more reason to fall. I think it just gives them an impossible title standard to live up to, don't you think?
Well, they can. They actually
Uh huh.
cannot live up to a standard. That's basically history.
Hmm.
But still, you reap the long-term benefits of it. I mean, George Washington would be one example. We go back to American
Hmm.
political history. George Washington was a hero. Everyone knew he
Hmm.
was a hero. Everyone considered him as a hero. But
Right.
while he was a president, people hated him for
Uh huh.
signing some peace agreements with Britain. They felt betrayed.
Mm.
They rioted outside. There were riots and there were
Ah.
protests against him and
Hmm.
against his support of
Right.
Alexander Hamilton. So Washington had a fall in his popularity while he was president,
Hmm.
but in the end, he was the model for succeeding presidents. So
Hmm.
even if they didn't have any law preventing anyone from having more than 2 terms, the succeeding
Hmm.
presidents never had more than 2 terms, except for a few. Except for a
Right.
few, because for them, are you good enough? Are you better than George Washington? So basically,
Yeah.
that's one
To
thing.
this
So
day, he's still being invoked. Right.
yeah.
And so, and just for maybe we can close with this.
Mm.
Uh, so since we should try and gamble and declare our living heroes, who should they be? You know, and can we give examples?
I cannot. I need to find.
Uh-huh.
I need to look for people who are alive
All right.
can
But
be heroes.
what should they be like? You know, just to recap, like what should heroes be like? The living
Mm.
heroes that we
I
can observe.
I think about. You know what? You go first. You go first. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. You go first.
Well, well, here's I'm trying to remember, but if you look at the practices done in maybe militaries, a lot of people get medals just for spilling their blood, like Purple Hearts.
Mm.
They're considered heroes.
Mm.
Like again, similar to OFWs, like soldiers,
Mm.
they are considered heroes by default, precisely because they've outwardly like given their lives by being a
Mm.
soldier by default. So someone like that, but as a class of people, so maybe something like that. As an individual, like some people have been given awards for
Mm.
doing things like I remember Efren Peña Florida, who made this
Mm.
movement like pushing around the cart and educating children.
Mm.
That's one but I don't know what he's doing now,
Mm.
but I think people still refer to him as being a hero. You have Manny Pacquiao, who continuously wins boxing matches. In some sense, he represents a symbolic victory of Filipinos in the
Mm.
global arena. So I suppose in that sense he is a hero, but as a citizen, perhaps we can discuss that. Can we consider Manny Pacquiao as a citizen hero? I don't know.
I think we can give him the title, then remove it from him. At least we praised his role as a sportsman. We can
Right.
remove it based on other factors.
But I think it's good that even when we declare someone as hero, like even they're Spider-Man or Batman,
Mm.
every day, every episode, every new movie, they're always tested. And because I think it's precisely that knowing that they are being tested kind of motivates them further to
Yeah,
staying on that heroic path. Well, yeah, whether it be Superman or Batman.
yeah. I
And
think
it's funny that we're, yeah,
yeah, I think that
go ahead.
the thought process itself required to find living heroes is worth
Hmm.
undertaking.
Right. Yeah. Or what do individual citizens need to think like in order for them to maybe become a hero? Like, can they say, "I want to be a hero"? Then what? Like,
That's one thing.
what do you think? Any advice for people who want to be heroes?
Ah, don't try to be,
Magpabayani,
just
wag
do it.
pabida. All right.
Magpakabayani, wag magpabida. But well,
That's
the
a
hero of the
quotable.
Soviet
Yeah.
Union, that's one
Hmm.
model for finding a standard. I'm not advocating adopting the notion of a hero of the Soviet Union
Hmm.
law for that one. But again, I'm inviting everyone to undergo this thought process. Can we find living heroes?
Yeah.
Because when we try to
Mm.
find living heroes, we also reflect upon our own values. It forces us to
Right.
reflect upon our own values.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah. So identify like, okay, I consider that. Well, the initial emotional response to when someone confronted that someone is heroic is admiration.
Mm.
But besides that feeling of admiration, you have to ask yourself, what do I admire with this
Mm.
individual? And I think the clue is there. What has this person done
Mm.
for the country, for the para sa bayan? And well, this and like have they done it selflessly?
Mm.
I
Mm.
mean, or regardless, even if they did it selfishly, should they still be considered a hero?
Mm.
I mean, I don't know. Well, that's a long conversation, but I think I think one thing we can both agree on is we need to start thinking
Mm.
about it from
Yeah.
this point onward. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Anything else?
there's
Mhm.
already something starting on Facebook. I think social media allowed the exposure of individuals who are selflessly doing things. I think it's already
Mhm.
starting. I think this
Right.
thought process is already starting, and we are already trying to express our
Mhm.
notions of selflessness and
Mhm.
heroism.
Right.
All we need to do right now is to lift it up at the level of the nation.
Right.
This would take extra effort.
Right. Just to promote this individual. I do have one
Mm.
very dangerous question. Can any politician be considered a hero? When in fact the
Mm.
danger there is there's always political partisan benefit when in any action they do.
Hmm.
So
Should they? Well, they would cease to be politicians when they're declared heroes. They would be citizens.
mm,
That's one thing.
mm,
I
aren't
think everyone
politicians
should be.
citizens? I mean, technically, politicians are citizens with positions.
Ew. Uh, I have higher standards for citizenship as far as I'm concerned. But yeah,
Okay,
fine.
all right,
Technically, they are. So that's another question. I think
yeah,
we would all end up with our own standards of citizenship when we try to
hmm,
answer this question of who is a
hmm,
living hero, who can be a living hero.
right. because I know I have students, teenage boys and girls who are going crazy over Vico Soto and Yorme. So, and they're politicians and they're seen almost like heroes. So let that be, perhaps we should give them credit and let
Yeah.
that be a test to them. See if they can live up to that.
Yeah.
It's like declaring love, you may not feel like you deserve it, but sometimes ongoing that into that relationship, you live up to that love, live to deserve it, continue to live to deserve being called a hero.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, humugot.
And with
Xiao,
that,
Xiao.
all right. And
But
with
yeah.
that, let's move on to. Am I moving on, or do you have something to
No,
say?
just one last thing. Yeah, you declare them
Right.
as heroes.
Yeah.
Declare them as heroes and let
Yeah.
them live up to them.
Yeah. Let them wait to live up to that. All right.
Yeah.
And with that, let us move on to recommendations. Where we get books, movies, music that can help enrich the discussion we had today. Songs. I can be your hero, baby. Oh my God.
Or the David Bowie's Heroes. Hero.
We can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes. All right. But anyway, in all seriousness, what do you have to recommend for this week, Boris?
Well, since we're discussing heroes, best thing that I can think of would be something I have on hand would be Buhay at mga Sinulat ni Emilio Jacinto, which was scattered by Jose P. Santos. I think this is on rare. I think it's being reprinted right now, so you can find some online secondhand bookstores. This is a rare book because it's only. I think Jacinto's works were only gathered once, and this is it. So again, Jacinto is. Why am I choosing Jacinto? Because he is, of course, a model for the youth. If the youth would like to be heroes, then Jacinto would be one example.
He died at 21, right? What have you done before 21? God. Sorry to put that on you, but none of us did anything more than Jacinto. So yeah, Jacinto was the brains of a revolution. So what have you done before? Reader, like listeners, what have you done before 21? Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm at. If they can find a copy of this one, Jacinto's works worth pondering upon philosophically, ethically. I think we can find political ethics upon this one. So yeah.
He's a young person and he's so well written, well articulate. So that's so almost superhuman. Personal favorite. I have to look for my copy as well. I have a copy. It's a good one. For me, I think we're looking at dead people, which is quite ironic, but I suppose it's a sheer scarcity of living examples of heroes. But sure, my recommendation is also on the dead, and this is for me a masterpiece done by a compilation actually done by Nick Joaquin, which is Question of Heroes, which talks about the quote-unquote pantheon of Philippine revolutionary heroes in particular, like Jose Burgos, Marcelo H. del Pilar, Garciano Lopez Jaina, Jose Rizal, Bonifacio, etc. And the thing is, he doesn't, like most of the books during that time were hagiographic, meaning it's all praises. But what he does here is he questions them. He sheds it on a different light. He calls Rizal an anti-hero precisely because he has attracted weird biographies by weird people. Like in a way, first Guerrero, he wrote First Filipino. In a way, it's an extension of his, in a way, Ilustrado Creole, educational tendencies. And you have what's the I forget this other Coates, who psychoanalyzed Rizal and eventually ended up killing himself. And then there are other things. See, and then there's of course people like he wrote about Mabini who calls him like a wax statue, or a mysterious sphinx who's unmoving, who is wise but is unmoving. And then you have
Mabini,
Gregorio del Mabini. Yes,
I'm surprised that he cannot move.
Yeah, his ultimate enemy is stairs. Anyway. And thinking about Gregorio del Pilar, while he was considered like a Thermopylae hero, a war hero, in history, Here he calls him a hatchet man of
Yeah.
Aguinaldo.
Butcher.
Hmm. Like a enforcer.
Yeah.
So it sheds different light. Does he say that these do not deserve to be called heroes? No, but he just shows us that they're not perfect. In fact, it makes them all the more interesting. So I won't spoil the others, but I think I used to teach this book on great works in De La Salle.
Ooh.
So and I find it important. So yeah, that's my recommendation. And that is it for episode 8 on hero worship, why we worship heroes and why we should look for living heroes. Um, Let us know what you think about it. Join the conversation through a PI podcast, uh, ph@gmail.com. Also through our Facebook page. But at the same time, before we leave, we have an announcement to make. And Borge, what do we have?
We are launching new forms for this year. We have shorter forms.
New content.
New content.
Right. Mostly 2 things. First one is, I forgot the first one. Slice of PI.
Yeah, slice of PI.
What's slice of PI, Borge?
Yeah, slice of PI is we provide short hot takes on hot news. So we'll launch for the first one soon. What's the other one?
Watch out for that. The other one is PI Skwela, when we are going in creating educational content on things like the state, government, justice, power, things like that. So ito yung ambag natin sa edukasyon ng bayan,
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so watch out for a new content for the new year. All right. So thank you again for joining us. This has been episode 8 of PI Podcast. Until the next episode.
Magandang gabi, mga ka-PI.